lot of board gamers have games that they consider their classic. Traditionalists believe Monopoly and Risk are a traditional and classic game and immortalized. Some believe Catan or Carcassonne. Card players tend to think Magic is the most classic game, and some even think Pokemon is pretty classic. But for miniature wargamers, there's only one classic board game, and that can only be Game Workshop's Space Hulk. We're going to be looking at the 4th edition. That's still available today, and you can still find in certain places. So let's head down to the table and take a look at this classic board game. Space Hulk is one of the most beautiful games that you will ever see, and boasts some of the best components you'll ever see. Just the thickness on the tiles and the engraving there to show the spaces is just absolutely gorgeous and incredible. Not to mention the models, which are of course some of the highest quality that you will ever see, and GW models are the very best. And you can see by the detail they are just tremendous models. So you definitely get your money's worth out of this pricey game. But it's the experience of this game that really makes this game. So let's talk about some of the rules, not all the rules, but the basics of Space Hulk. Now here we have one lone Space Marine, and we're going to talk about the rules here, but I'm not going to be able to cover everything. There's going to be a lot of things that I won't be able to cover, but we will cover the pure basics. Action points are how Space Marines move, shoot, and put themselves into Overwatch or Guard. The Gene Stealers have 6 action points, where the Space Marines start with 4. But because they have a commander, they get command points. And what happens is there are 6 chits like this. They are shaken, and at the beginning of the turn, you could put them in a cup or whatever. You would pull out one, and you would see what the number is, and you would put it right onto this chart. The Gene Stealer player does not get to see, so you can have anywhere from 0 to 6 as far as command points. They can be used at any time. They can be used on the Gene Stealer's turn. They can be used on your turn. And using it on the Gene Stealer's turn, you only get to use it on one Marine. Now, let's take a look at a couple things that we can do. Now here, we're going to turn this over, and we have a 5, so that is very good. We have 5 extra action points. So if we wanted to move backwards, that would cost us 2 action points. And the action points are 4 per model, and that is the same with the Gene Stealer. If we wanted to move up 1, 2, that would be 2 action points, and to open the door would cost an action point. That's 3 action points, leaving 1 action point. Now, they have a thing called Overwatch. That means the minute a Gene Stealer comes into sight, you can begin to fire. And as each step it moves towards you, you get to fire until you jam. Now the Gene Stealers have 6 action points. So in this case, the Gene Stealers, they come in always on certain spaces. Like we have an open area here and an open area here. If the player, and depending on the mission, they would be able to put their Gene Stealers there and begin their movement. Now the minute this comes over into this area, the blip is flipped over to reveal how many Gene Stealers. There could be 0, which means it could be a false blip, to 3, which in case we do have 3, you would put it on the closest space and work back. So if our Space Marine was on Overwatch, he would be able to fire. Now, how are our Gene Stealers killed? Well, on a roll of 6 on 2 dice, this is being an action bolter, you get to roll 2 dice and you have to attribute a 6. There you got a 4 and a 1. That does not do it. So the Gene Stealers would keep moving forward. The Space Marine, being on Overwatch, would get to roll again. And of course, not getting a 6, that does not help. And until the Gene Stealer used up all its movement or got into close combat, they would keep moving if they desired so. But you would keep on shooting in the meantime. Now, close combat is a whole different animal. If in close combat, as you can see, our one guys, depending on if they have power claws or power fists or a power sword like this gentleman here, so we're going to take him out and we're going to put him in. The power sword would get +1 to a close combat. If they had a lightning claw, such as this model here has lightning claws, they would get 2d6 +1. Now they would have to, the Gene Stealers, always in close combat, roll 3 dice. So in this case, they've rolled a 2, a 2, and a 3. Now for defense, because let's just call this a regular Space Marine, he would get 1 die. And he rolled a 6, which means that he was successful in defending. So in this case, as you can see, because the Space Marine only gets 1 die unless he has, if he has lightning claws, he has 2 lightning claws, such as this gentleman right here, and he would get 2d6 +1. A sergeant with a power sword gets 1d6 +1, and a sergeant with a thunder hammer and storm shield gets 1d6 +2. As you can see, his storm shield and his thunder hammer. And he gets block. Now, I'm not going to explain all the rules, but I'm just going to go over close combat real quick. And what happens in close combat is, as you can see, the Gene Stealer gets to roll 3 dice. He rolled a 3, a 2, and a 2. But our Space Marine rolled a 6. Now, because he's facing the Gene Stealer, the attacker would be killed in this situation. Now, if the rolls were different, and our Space Marine rolled a 2, because the 3 is higher here, the other 2 do not matter. You take the highest die out of the 3 and compare. Now, because that's a 3 and he's attacking, 1 wound kills our Space Marine and off he goes. Should he roll a 3 and his highest number was a 3, a tie, it would be a standoff. If this Gene Stealer had any additional actions, he would be able to yet attack again. And hopefully the Space Marine would be valiant and survive. Now, because he was on guard, and guard costs 2 action points, so it's a very expensive thing, but that's why you want to use your command points very wisely. Now in this case, he would get to re-roll. Whatever he rolls here stands a 2. So being on guard didn't help, because those claws cut right through the armor and killed our poor Space Marine. But let's just say, for pity's sake, because the Space Marines really don't do very well, that he happened to roll a 6 on a re-roll. Well, of course we would kill the Gene Stealer, but he would still remain on guard. So should, because he's on guard, another Gene Stealer come into close combat range, he would still be able to use his ability. And of course, we roll a 6 there, double 6s, a 3, and we would re-roll again, a 4, which doesn't help. It doesn't beat a 6, and unfortunately our guy that we wasted all our action points on is gone. Now let's take a look at this chart, and as you can see on this chart, there are some other areas. I'm just going to explain those real quick. As you know, up top here is where we control our command points. But there's an autocannon, and that only has a limited amount of ammo. Storm bolters have an unlimited amount of ammo. Assault cannons can be put on Overwatch and have 10 shots. Once they're used up, the person controlling the assault cannon would have a reload token. You're only allowed one reload token unless a mission specifies otherwise. Once you run through those 10 shots, the autocannon is completely useless, and it kills on a 5+. A heavy flamer kills on 2+, and also has 6 shots. And once the 6 shots are used up, well, that's pretty much for our flame. So say there was flame blocking this area, and a Gene Stealer went into it. It sustains itself for 1 turn. This Gene Stealer would have to roll for damage, and of course would be consumed by the flame. Storm bolters and assault cannons have unlimited range, but heavy flamers only have a range of 12 squares. Overwatch, the thing that we were talking about a bit earlier, that only has a range of 12 squares. So anything outside that does not count, and the Gene Stealer would move and use its action until it got into a 12 hex range, to which you can begin your Overwatch fire. There are psychers, there are librarians, there's a lot of things that we didn't cover in here and that can do different things. And even though it looks like that it's bad for the Space Marines, they do have certain weapons that you can equip them with to not even the odds, but make it a lot more competitive. Once these Gene Stealers get in your wheelhouse, it's a tough time to get them off. But the advantage is using and being very strategic throughout the map, knowing where the blips are, and being able to negotiate and have your team perform at a high level to take out whatever may be coming at you. And that is the beauty of Space Hulk. There are so many different missions, and we're going to take a look at the mission book. So let's take a look at that now and talk a little bit about that. The manual is a beautiful thing and very well put together and very easy to understand. It comes on the back with a beautiful reference sheet, as well as painting guides if you want to paint your models. As you can see, we didn't talk about the librarian and their psychic ability, but that's something that we'll talk about up top once we get there. Talking about all the different weapons and showing the different designs in which you can paint them or add them to your Terminators. The different mission status phases, ladders, objects, everything that comes in the box. This box comes with so many bits, and this manual is just so put together so well. Clean, concise, very to the point, easy to access any kind of rules. This is a very, very well done book, giving you instructions on how to put these together. If you're going to go out and try to venture this, just know that you're going to have to put these models together, and they are not an overly complicated process. They go together very well. They are, after all, GW miniatures, and they are done very, very well. As well as an explanation for every marker, every artifact, everything that comes with it. It comes with a ton of dice, and comes with a very detailed mission book. And this is just done to perfection, because it starts you off with a beautiful storyline explaining the history of Space Hulk, of the Space Hulk in their universe, and what the Space Hulk was used for. And it just gives you about mission briefings, how to decipher and put together the maps. And some of these maps are just absolutely gorgeous. If you've never played Space Hulk before, this is probably one of the best sci-fi games that you will ever play as far as a dungeon crawl type. It comes, I believe, with a number of just very extensive and very hard to beat missions, because it's not that easy. Cleansing and burning, finding artifacts, decoys, there's special rooms that come with this. This is just all in all just very well put together. Different levels. There's a level 1 here, and then there's stairs that take you to a level 2, and having to go into the depths. It talks about the whole mission of trying to get these artifacts, and then trying to get out of the Space Hulk, and just very well put together storyline. And online you're going to find tons and tons more of homemade missions and such, as well as just a beautiful story behind it all. And 16 missions in this book is just absolutely terrific, with a great storyline. You couldn't ask for a better set. And here you go with a nice painting guide of all the miniatures that come with it, and some beautiful miniatures, very well sculpted and put together, and not badly painted either by yours truly. Let's go up top and close this out and get my final thoughts on Space Hulk. So let's get my final thoughts on this classic game. There have been 4 editions. The first edition was the original Space Hulk, and it was very a little more complicated. It came with 2 expansions, Deathwing, and then it also came out with another expansion, which was Genestealer. Each one adding the Dark Angels in Deathwing, and the Genestealer adding the Cultists and the Magnus, which was the end-all be-all Genestealer, as well as adding a lot of Psyker abilities. The game became very complicated. When they came out with the second edition, they dumbed it down too much, that people didn't like it because they took away everything and stripped it down to a very simplified game. The third edition, which is basically the 4th edition as well, they came out with and made a few minor changes in the 4th edition, but it stays true to the 3rd edition, where they kind of added back the Psyker and some of the Librarian stuff, but the quality is the best it's ever been. And you know, for the price, and it is pricey, this is a great game. This is a game that you get 3 hobbies in. You put the models together, you get some beautiful models to paint, and then you have a very solid, well put together game with great support, where you can go anywhere and people make their own homebrewed missions, and a lot of them are fantastic. You can actually take some of your other Terminators and give them certain weapons, and people have rules for that, or bring in Carnifex and all the different other types of Genestealers from the Tyranid line, and work them within the Space Hulk. This game has a lot of legs and a lot of history. It started back in 1989 and still is strong today, and well and beloved by many. I love this game. This is one of my top 10 games of all time. It's something that's very deep to me. So when you get my opinion of this, you're going to find that I'm very biased toward it. This is a 9 out of 10 for me. Now, there's one thing that I left out, and it's a rule that I think I should talk about while we're here. The timer. If you are a first-time Space Hulk player, we always try to leave the timer out until you can get a feel for the whole game. But once you get going, this timer adds a whole new dimension to it. And this is something that is just in the 3rd and 4th edition. What happens is on the Space Marine's turn, to simulate how you have to be quick on your feet, not that Terminators are quick on their feet, that's all the time you get. When that runs out, if you didn't spend all your action points, you lose them. And you didn't get a chance to move all your guys. Now, your command points stand because you can use them on the Genestealer turn, but only for one guy. So you've got to be able to think and see everything that the Gene Stealer's doing. So just thinking that you can sit there and, okay, when he moves, I'll figure everything out. And you better watch very intently, because this timer goes even quicker than I can talk. So it is a great, great game. I suggest if you have the chance to find it, do so. Look it up at be sure to look it up at Cool Stuff. I believe they have some left, and other stores also have them if you really, really have to have this game and they don't have it. This game is still available, and I think this is a fantastic game, something that you will love and treasure and become a part of your collection. Well, that's it for this week, and I hope you join me next week for another pulse-pounding review. Until next time, I'm Rob Oren. See you soon.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool Stuff, in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.